In December 1975, inside Kodak's Building 4 in Rochester, New York, a 23-year-old electrical engineer named Steve Sasson scavenged together an 8-pound, toaster-sized device. He used a new solid-state sensor, an analog-to-digital converter, and spare parts from a movie camera to capture an image without using a single drop of chemicals. The process was slow and cumbersome. Once the shutter clicked, the prototype whirred for 23 seconds just to write the image data onto a standard cassette tape. To view the result, a custom playback unit took another 23 seconds to display a single, blurry, 0.01 megapixel black and white image on a television set. When Sasson pitched the prototype to Kodak's senior executives, he brought along a prediction. Relying on Moore's law, he estimated that digital sensors would match consumer film quality in 15 to 20 years. He gave leadership a specific timeline for when this technology would be ready for the public. The executives questioned why a consumer would ever want to view their memories on a television screen instead of holding a physical print. While they found the technical achievement curious, they were defensive of the company's existing ecosystem. Sasson was instructed to keep the invention quiet and return to his regular assignments. Kodak filed a patent for the digital camera in 1978, but the device remained a laboratory curiosity. While the rest of the world was unaware, the blueprints for a filmless future were already sitting in a vault in Rochester. Kodak's identity was built as an industrial chemical monopoly. The cameras themselves were almost secondary to the materials required to use them. The company relied on a razor and blades economic model. Kodak practically gave cameras away at cost, ensuring consumers entered an endless loop of buying film, developing chemicals, and Kodak paper. This loop captured 90% of the U.S. film market and 80% of development chemicals. To the executive board, a digital camera represented a direct threat to the most profitable divisions in the organization. By shelving Sasson's invention, Kodak protected its high-margin chemical revenue in the short term. However, this silence provided an opening for competitors like Sony and Canon to develop digital imaging capabilities without any interference from the industry leader. The very success of the film business created a rigid disincentive to change. The more profitable Kodak became, the more dangerous a filmless camera appeared to its bottom line. Kodak did eventually attempt to pivot. Over several decades, the company invested billions in digital research, leading to the creation of the world's first megapixel sensor in 1986. Despite this investment, the company was caught in a competency trap. Because its logistics and profits were tied to chemical processing, its digital products were often designed to avoid competing with its own film sales. This was evident in products like the Advantix Preview camera. It featured a digital screen so users could preview their shots, but it still required the purchase of a physical roll of film to retrieve the images. This institutional resistance reached the highest levels of management. During a presentation by a young software entrepreneur named Bill Gates, who proposed integrating Kodak's photo CD technology into Microsoft Windows, Kodak's CEO reportedly fell asleep. In practice, Kodak attempted to translate its analog monopoly into the digital era, rather than adapting to the new reality. They treated digital technology as a way to support film, rather than replace it. In Japan, Shigetaka Komori and his team at Fujifilm faced the same decline in film demand at the exact same time as Kodak. While Kodak was installing 10,000 digital kiosks to try and keep people printing physical photos, Fujifilm decided to move away from its core product entirely. Komori chose to deconstruct the organization. He tasked his engineers with identifying the technical capabilities they had perfected over decades that could be applied to entirely different markets. They found a match in healthcare. The specific antioxidant compounds developed to keep photographs from fading over time were repurposed for human collagen and skincare products. They also realized their ability to precisely coat dozens of microscopic layers onto plastic film was the exact skill set needed to manufacture the components used in LCD television displays. Fujifilm survived by separating its technical skills from its corporate identity. They accepted that while film was dying, the chemistry they used to make it was still valuable to the rest of the world. By 2012, the paths of these two empires had diverged permanently. Fujifilm had successfully reinvented itself, emerging as a $12 billion powerhouse with profitable divisions in tech, cosmetics, and pharmaceuticals. Kodak was out of cash. In the digital hardware market, prices had dropped so low that Kodak was losing an average of $60 on every camera it sold. On January 19, 2012, Eastman Kodak filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. To keep the lights on, the company was forced to sell the digital imaging patents that Steve Sasson had first pioneered in Building 4. Inventing a new technology is only the first step. If a company's internal incentives are designed to protect the current quarter, it will struggle to survive the coming decade. In July 2020, years after its fall, the remaining shell of Kodak saw its stock price climb 2,500% in a single week. This surge followed the announcement of a $765 million government loan. The plan was for Kodak to pivot once more, this time into manufacturing pharmaceutical ingredients to aid in the pandemic response. The pivot was short-lived. SEC investigations revealed that Kodak's CEO and several board members had secured millions in stock options just before the confidential loan was announced to the public. Regulators found evidence of contract consultants using coded messages to coordinate stock purchases. In the ensuing scandal, the federal government pulled the funding, and the drug manufacturing plan collapsed. If engineers at a modern technology giant built a prototype today that cannibalized their primary revenue stream, would their leadership be willing to build it? Steve Sasson's 8-pound toaster showed Kodak its exact cause of death 30 years before it arrived. In the end, the company didn't fail for lack of vision. It failed for a lack of courage.